So Michelle, today you gonna respond, or you just gonna stand around like a piece of meat with mittens?
I don't know. I guess I won't respond.
That was a quote from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, so I'm not just being mean to you for no reason.
Oh, okay.
Um, no, I had quite for pandemic wise, I had a very busy day
Yeah.
because I had to get up at 7:30. I had a plumber come over, and I had a leaky valve, which has now been replaced with a much nicer valve.
Yay.
Yeah, and that was something. Um, and then overall, the plumber did a good job. I think he was just a little grouchy when he first came over, because he was like, where's your shutoff valve?" And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I rent, and I've been renting here for over 9 years, and this is the first time I've ever needed a plumber.
Yeah.
So, you know, call me lucky. But like, but then after that, he seemed pretty all right. He was being pretty cool. So I think he was just, probably a little annoyed or whatever,
hmm
in general. So, but then he did a good job. He replaced the valve. Of course, because, this is the way it works. Uh, the leak stopped like right before
Yeah.
he got here.
Yeah.
But it was like, well, you have the appointment, you may as well do it. It wasn't that expensive. So,
hmm
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, and that thing is never going to leak again, because instead of one of the stupid circular spouts now, it's got one of those things that, just really, so, um, what are you laughing at?
I'm just laughing because there was the people who were just like listening. They're just not seeing the movement, and it's just really awkward.
That's the best part. That's the best part, Michelle.
Yeah.
So I was making a pulling motion like I was playing the lottery, like a slot machine,
hmm
not the lottery. But so that's taken care of. That's all good. And then the second half of the day, or in what I call Henrique's deal with people and spend money extravaganza, was I had to take Chicano to the vet. Now everything's fine with him. It was just his 6-month senior exam.
hmm
And I'm very cautious with my dogs. They are, they're older. I got them when they were older. So I get them examined every 6 months, if not more often, if something is wrong. And I get a blood panel done generally every 6 months, which makes their exam like almost 3 times as expensive, because I get a
Yeah.
full blood panel done. But it's like, if something's wrong with them, I want to catch it now.
Yeah.
you know I haven't gotten Chicano's blood panel yet, but I took him to the vet at 2:30, and the vet was very impressed. He's not only healthy, but she said that his weight has not gone up or down at all in 6 months, which is just
Wow.
means that I've got his food perfect,
hmm
which is great to know, because it's Henwolf had major weight problems, so I'm learning how to do it. And I figured out that with Chicano, he gets, I know this is so boring, but like he gets salmon oil and his food, which, by the way, she mentioned his skin and his coat are like beautiful.
Yay.
Which is nice, because I think they're beautiful, but like that's an expert's opinion. She's like, no,
hmm
his skin looks great, not dry at all. So I was like, well, that's good, because I give him salmon oil, which is a double-edged thing. It stops his dandruff, and it helps his joints a little bit, and it makes him eat his food, because he doesn't really like the dry food very much.
Yeah.
If I had $1 for every time I had to starve him out into taking medicine or eating food. So that's good. That I've got it kind of right, because right now it's pretty simple. It's like a scoop of food, 3 squirts of salmon oil, and a couple treats here and there. And that
hmm
pretty much keeps him right where he needs to be. Because when I first
Cool.
got him, they told me to give him 2 scoops of food a day, and he started getting fat like immediately.
hmm
I
hmm
remember he rolled over on his tummy once, and I went, "What's going on right there, bud?" So I've been trying to keep him slim and trim, but he came to me already in pretty darn good health.
hmm Yeah.
His teeth look great. She said that he just looks great. So, um,
Good.
and then I got to come home to a very angry hen wolf, who wanted to know where the hell we were and why she didn't come along. It's so sad because she doesn't even look mad when I took him out of his crate to the door. She just looks confused, like, you're forgetting. You don't understand.
Oh
I don't understand
no.
what's happening. I always joke that whenever I leave the house without her, that her reaction is like, but we've never been apart. But no, so she did her thing, which is she came out of the cage and immediately sniffed every inch of him. That's what she does every time they're apart. She sniffs every inch of his body, and then licks him a little, and then goes back to kind of being normal. So, and Chicano's a bit afraid of the vet, so he's napping right now on his favorite spot on the couch. He did well. It's hard. I feel for my vet. She's really good, but like I totally get that she has trouble remembering which dog is which in her own mind. You know, like she has the sheet, but you know, it's easy to forget because she would like she brought up his weight and was very excited. And I was like, okay, he never had a weight problem. I'm just trying to keep his weight right.
Yeah.
But it's like I have 2 dogs. And you know, she's got to keep up with that. So she did ask, she was like, is he normally this skittish? Because he seems a little extra skittish. And I was like, no, that's in fact, he's probably less skittish now than he was the last time you saw him. So he's just such a sweet dude, such a sweet dog. So yeah. So but that like made my day incredibly more involved than most of my days, to be frank. I mean, I work a lot from home and I work really long hours, but like, because of the creative nature of my job in particular, I think that the average person would probably think I barely work at all, honestly, which is a little frustrating because I also see myself that way. It's like, I'll be like, I barely did any work today. It's like, how do you keep paying your bills? And I'm like, I don't know, because I don't work. No, but I do work. And, but it can be, you know, very malleable, especially right now. You know, it can be very malleable. I can be like, I'll take 3 hours off in the middle of the day and watch a movie and then just make it up later. It doesn't matter because nobody's, you know, waiting on me anywhere really.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, so this has been like a very busy day with scheduled things, you know, like the plumber's coming at 8 and you got to be at the vet at 2:30. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't had this much structure in what feels like forever. But you know what's really helped me through this trying day? Oh, and I forgot to, and in the middle of it all, I took a nap and plugged up my ear because I don't think I can handle this hot, cold weather. It's really wreaking havoc on my throat and my sinuses.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, I feel like it's normal. But like, boy, I feel like it's a little worse this year because we've had days where like the high was 25 and then the next day the high is almost 50. It's like, well, Jesus Christ, man. How are my sinuses supposed to keep up with that? But you know what got me through it, Michelle?
No.
A certain friend of mine illegally letting me use one of their streaming services.
That's interesting. Good for you. And
that friend might be you.
It might not be illegal. We don't know.
I actually really, really doubt it's illegal, but
yeah, I don't think it is.
But I have taped, DVR'd, whatever, so many episodes of Home Improvement. That is the best show ever on television, I think. My God,
I haven't seen it in the longest time, so I don't necessarily like want to see it, but it's been a very long time.
The jokes for me, they held up even better because they make a lot of adult jokes. And I don't mean like dirty jokes. I mean like jokes about like, you know, mortgage payments and jokes about like, you know, how expensive it is to own a home or how expensive it is to own a car and stuff like that. One of my favorite, so I watched a bunch today because I was waiting for the guy to finish doing his thing and then I was trying to take a nap, but of course, the moment I'm like, okay, you have time to take a quick nap. I'm like, I'm not tired. So I just started watching some episodes of Home Improvement. They did a clip show episode, which is not uncommon, but they did a clip show episode. And the framing story is like my favorite framing story for a clip show I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
The Taylor family it's Friday night. The Taylor family's hanging out and what happens? They send dad out to get pizza on his way home or on his way home from work. They ask him to get pizza, but he doesn't get pizza. He gets Polish food because he and one of his sons just love Polish food. So he gets like this giant spread of Polish food. And Jill is just like, last time we got Polish food, you were up half the night. You know, and then the other son is just one of the sons is like, yeah, and you were on the toilet the other half of the night. And like the whole audience laughs. But so he ends up eating too much and ends up sitting on the couch drinking Malox, basically watching old tapes of his own TV show. And I was like, that's a great framing device. The whole show is based around the fact that he gave himself horrible indigestion. I mean, as a person who writes a lot, that's a solid, and it's like it's on brand, you know, because Tim is kind of a Neanderthal at times. So it's like, don't eat too much, you'll get sick. And he's like, oh, why did I eat so much? I'm sick. You know, it just worked for me. Plus, I mean, one of the most memorable things about that show is all the Tool Time episodes, all the show inside the show. And that's what it pretty much was like the best of the Tool Time segments, which are where all the like slapstick stuff is and stuff, which, you know, really worked for Tim Allen, I think. Now, people may be thinking like, oh my God, Henrik, we knew you were lame, but you're so lame. You want to talk about Home Improvement. Listen, motherfucker. Home Improvement is not on Hulu. It's not on Netflix. It's not on any of the pay services that you have. You can buy the episodes for $1.99 an episode. And there are 100 and some episodes. Or you can be lucky enough to have a friend who shares an app that lets you record them. So I'm excited because I've gotten a chance to catch up on some old Home Improvements. And I wanted to say, Home Improvement did something. I think I've told you this story before, but Home Improvement did something for me that no one's going to expect. And I almost feel like this is too personal of a story to share, but I'm going to share it. Okay. So there's an episode of Home Improvement because they had, you know, like a lot, there was, don't get me wrong, I'm like, I love Home Improvement. It's so great. It had a lot of standard stuff, a lot of very standard stuff. But there was an episode where Jill gets very sick. And well, no, she starts getting sick. Sorry. She starts getting sick and she figures out that she's going through menopause very early. And or something like, and something's wrong. Basically, something's wrong with your uterus and it needs to be removed. Okay. While she's in the surgery, though, they find out that there's something wrong with her ovaries as well. So they have to give her a full hysterectomy. And it's a scary, you know, very serious episode. They talk about like hysterectomies and you know, how, you know, women of a certain age have to get one and you know, and stuff like that. And Jill's okay, but she's dealing with like being depressed because, you know, even though she didn't want to have any more kids, it just made her feel weird to lose her, you know, whatever. And Tim does his great thing where he says something really ignorant, but then he thinks about it and then he comes back and is very thoughtful, which is the you know, that's, you know, paint by numbers, but a bit more intense than some of the other episodes. Sure. Fast forward to me being 13 or 14 years old. My mother suddenly gets very sick and has to have an emergency hysterectomy. And she's like way young to need a hysterectomy. And I was way young for my mother to need to suddenly go to the hospital and get surgery, you know? Yeah. And when she was in the hospital and they'd examined her and they're like, okay, she's going to have a hysterectomy like right now. Instead of just like crying and crying, I stopped and I was like Jill Taylor, she had a hysterectomy and it was totally okay. You know, I mean, it was hard on her, but she didn't, you know, she didn't have to be in the hospital very long and she felt a lot better after it. And so Home Improvement has a very special place in my heart. Yeah. Because that was such a nice thing to have for me being so scared, you know? Yeah. And, you know, my mom is my whole world. She was everybody, you know, especially as a kid, you know, she was everybody to me. So I just want to say, you know, to the writing staff of Home Improvement, and I know you listen, thank you. Thank you very much. But no, it was a really great episode. You know, there are little, when you're a kid, there are little things in media that can really help you feel like you're not alone, which is one of the great elements of art. You know, at the end of the day, all we want to do is connect. You know, like even if you have a show that doesn't really connect with you in a literal way, like it's a show about, like, I'm just throwing out like Death Note. Death Note's a good example because you and I watched that together. And it's the anime Death Note. I love Death Note. The main concept of the show is not something you can identify with. I mean, he's got this notebook and he writes people's names and a cause of death and they die, and then people are investigating him and all this. But what makes the characters memorable are the things that you can identify with them about. And that's the way it is with any good art. Once you identify with what someone's saying, whether it's a podcast or a TV show or a song, once you identify, you suddenly feel a little less alone. Everybody wants to connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another example I would be mad at myself if I didn't give is Mrs. Doubtfire. You remember Mrs. Doubtfire, I'm sure.
Me or the audience?
You, Michelle.
Yeah.
They're not a part of this conversation. They're voyeurs. Okay. Filthy voyeurs. No, but you remember Mrs. Doubtfire, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a great movie. I love Robin Williams. I love all that stuff. But as a kid from a broken home, I mean, that's what they called them back then. They called them broken homes when your parents weren't together. As a kid from a broken home, the fact that the movie ends not with the parents getting back together, but with the parents becoming good friends and, and working together to raise the kids well, instead of working against each other.
Yeah.
That was a very big deal for a kid like me.
Yeah.
To see a life in this movie that was like my life, because I remember, my parents got divorced when I was so young that I mean, once I had any understanding of human interaction at all, I had no belief that my parents were going to get back together. Like the moment I had awareness, I was like, they don't even want to look at each other that much. I mean, they were never nasty to each other in front of me or anything like that. And I mean, to the point where I can't even say if they were ever nasty to each other at all, because they never, ever were that way around me. They were both very good about that. But, by the time I was 5, I would never even think like, maybe they'll get back together. No. In fact, my mom loves to tell this story about how when I was a little boy, I came home from school one day all excited. And I told my mom that I'd made a friend and that his mom and dad live in the same house. Wow. And I was like mind blown. And my mom was just like, oh God, I'm ruining him. And I was like, Mom, that's not what you should have gleaned from that. You should have just gleaned the innocence of children.
Yes.
But so, that's and I don't want to I know some people it might make uncomfortable to talk about like their childhood and divorces and stuff like that, but I mean, it just was a part of my life, so it doesn't really bother me to talk about it.
Sure.
But so Mrs. Doubtfire's ending was a really big deal, because when you watch that movie, if you try to watch it with fresh eyes, if you try to watch it and try to, force yourself to forget, it does seem like maybe they'd get back together because of that's just the way they did, things are done. And the fact that they don't is huge. And not only is the fact that they don't huge, but Christopher Columbus, the director, almost got fired for that ending because the studio wanted to change it to the parents get back together because they thought that was the feel-good ending. And Robin Williams said, well, I will quit if you fire Chris Columbus. And that's why that movie has that ending. And that's why that movie is not just, that's why I remember and rewatch that movie and not Jumanji. Jumanji was super fun. And if it's on cable, especially when I was a kid, I'd watch it. But I owned Mrs. Doubtfire on VHS and didn't even know until, a decade later that it was a comforting movie to me.
Yeah.
You know, because I do remember being very heartwarmed by that ending, even as a kid, being like, oh my gosh, they're, they love each other, but mom and dad just don't work, which is important. It matters,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all I mean, it just made me think of it because, and especially being a kid like I was, and if my mother's listening to this, which I don't think she does listen to this often, but Mom, if you're listening, you did a really good job. So, but my mother and I are very similar. She'll take anything I say personally. So, but I had to spend, because of the way things were, I had to spend a lot of time by myself. I had spent a lot of time alone. So having the television set help me was like it really was there for me. And I don't know how else to describe it. I don't see that as sad. I see that as a wonderful thing. I really do. So you say something.
What do you want me to say?
Has there ever been a piece of media
did I freeze or did you freeze?
What?
Oh, did you freeze or did I freeze? No, we're okay. Oh, it's me.
I'm not seeing any problems.
Okay. Well, what do you want me to say?
Well, is there any media that ever like really moved you or changed your perspective or made you feel better about bad things or anything like that?
No, actually, no. I mean, it took me, well, that's not no forever, but no in my childhood. I've never had characters that I could connect to or stories that made me feel better.
Not even the Rugrats when they were Jewish occasionally?
Oh yeah, it's like, oh, that's me. No,
the Maca babies. I loved that. Sorry.
No, it's just like everything, as far as I can remember, like nothing that would have impacted me enough for me to remember.
Mm-hmm.
At least there's just nothing. Like I just watched everything as an outsider who was like, oh, this is fun, or like, oh, I like these characters, but like it was never any real connection, especially in childhood.
Well,
so.
Do you think
and
that
then,
oh, sorry, please.
Yeah, no. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna, do you think that maybe that might have had more to do with the fact that I needed those connections a lot more than you did? Because I needed heroes and I needed people to look up to because I didn't have my dad, around, and my mom worked a lot, and I was relentlessly tormented and bullied in school. So friends were scarce. So I may have looked harder as well. I'm not saying that, that you're not a space alien, which is what you're getting at, is that you're a space alien.
No, I mean, I don't, I was going to say I don't disagree with you, but I don't agree either. It's not fun not to be able to connect to things. And I think the reason that I am so, artistic
she did air quotes for those listening.
Yeah. It's true. The reason like I'm so into like, the any sort of story driven, like narrative driven art is because I felt the need to create my own characters because I wasn't getting that from anywhere else. I can tell you that's exactly the reason.
So what you're saying, what Michelle is saying, for those who need a translation, is, oh, well, see, as a child, I was too busy creating to be bothered to identify with Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life or Hey Arnold. No. I was too busy making universes in my mind. That's what Michelle's saying.
Sure. Actually, I did identify with Filbert from Rocco's Modern Life.
I can see that, and that makes me so happy sad, which is like, yeah, that's like a definite happy sad.
Yeah.
Right there. I'm nauseous. I'm better. I'm nauseous. You turn the page and then you wash your hands.
But it's not that I got, because it's not like it's nice. It's really nice and comforting to be able to identify with characters and situations. So I'm glad that I eventually was able to. But it was not for a very long time. So.
Well, and it also, I mean, I think that it's a lot of things, but I'm sure part of it is just you're such a weirdo, which I think is your belief. But it's also, I mean, it takes time to develop like really advanced empathy, to like get to like, because like the examples I'm giving as a kid were not, cerebral. It was like my mom had a hysterectomy, Jill Taylor had a hysterectomy. They weren't like because like, I mean, Mrs. Doubtfire was about like a rich family splitting up. That's not what I had growing up. The only thing I had in common was their parents were divorced and they had siblings. I didn't have siblings, So I mean, I can't pretend that I identified strictly and deeply. The way I do now with characters is very different. You know,
Mhm.
now I identify with characters. I'm like, wow, he beats himself up the way I beat myself up.
I still almost never identify with characters. So it takes a lot.
You identify. So you've watched like 4 seasons of Oz. Do you identify with any of the characters in Oz?
No.
Not at all.
I don't think so.
Wow, must be
Uh
nice.
honestly, like
You
no.
don't identify with Beecher?
No.
I mean, in the beginning, not like as his character changes, that's a whole other thing. But
And-
Beecher is kind of the character we're supposed to identify with because he's a fish out of water, like we would
Oh,
be in the prison.
I identify with Beecher in the sense that he is the most kind of normal of the characters, but he's a what am I trying to say? When you just have a
Lawyer?
character, what?
Oh, I said lawyer because his
He's a
character's a lawyer.
lawyer, so he's
So
like
I
me.
don't identify with him. No.
Yeah, no. When you have a character that like I'm like for some reason I can't find the word, but like when you have
Mhm,
like a character that's like blank and is supposed to be audience representation,
mhm.
I don't identify with those either. But I understand that they're more identifiable, and a lot of times I will like them. But like no, not really.
Well, and he ended up having. I mean, I don't want to talk about Oz this whole show. We're going to talk about like only media over 20 years old. But
Hmm.
he had a great arc where he stopped being just the audience's understanding of things pretty
Hmm.
quickly
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
became his own
Yeah.
thing.
I
Um,
think I think the difference is that it's not that I identify with him, it's that I feel sympathy or empathy for him, but I feel sympathy for him. There you go. Fine. Fine.
See, to me, sympathy is identifying with somebody to an extent. I mean, but it's a spectrum. It's not. I mean, I identify with lots of characters that have very little in common with necessarily, but I have like an element that I see myself in them.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, and I'm saying no. I'm just saying like I can empathize or sympathize with characters and not feel anything in common with them. I can just be like, I understand why that person would be hurt if because of this situation and still not
But
feel
you never connected to like how you felt when you were hurt or something like that.
yeah, no, like
I'm just trying to
no.
understand. I mean, I'm not. I'm part of me thinks we're just using different words.
We could be just using different words. I just okay. So in the simplest terms,
Okay.
like when I see the characters on TV, um like I like am invested in them and I feel things for them and about their situation, but I don't usually think, wow, those are things I've felt or that's that I feel like that is how I would handle the situation. Usually ever.
Okay. I mean, I don't think that that's how I identify with people.
Okay.
I mean, like when I say I identify with a character, I think I mean exactly what you're saying. I think I mean I feel sympathy and empathy for the way they're reacting. Sometimes, I mean, but not all characters are the same. There's some characters I'm like, wow, I think that they're like exactly how I would be or how I hope I would be or yada yada yada.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
in general, it's just a sweeping empathy
Well,
that that
then I just feel that for all the characters, all of them,
I
all
don't
the
feel that
time.
for all characters. Some characters are not good.
I
Like they're
literally
just badly
almost
done.
feel like that for all characters.
Yeah, but you
I
only
don't even
consume
know what
good
we're talking
media.
about.
You only consume
What?
good media like anime and
Oh,
Hallmark
oh
movies.
yeah.
No, no, because I mean, like, I don't. It takes a lot for me to like really identify with somebody to say like, oh wow, they're like me.
Hmm.
It takes a lot. Well, plus your experience affects that too. Like,
Sure.
as I've gotten older, it's not enough that you like be a product of divorce. You have to
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
you have to like have grown up in a place like where I grew up. You have to like it takes like things that are much less common to encounter for me to
Hmm.
have that like deep appreciation where I'm like, yeah. yeah,
Okay.
but that's why, but there are some characters that just blow you away, like Patriot.
Mm.
I think that I have so much in common with that main character
Mhm.
because him being, and man, nobody who's listening to this is gonna be like, what are they talking about? You should watch Patriot on Amazon Prime. It's one of the best television shows I've ever seen in my life. It's only 2 seasons. It's worth your time. You'll love it. But he's a secret agent, basically. But that's not what I identify with. The secret agent stuff is really, in my opinion, just a simile or a metaphor for depression and
Mhm.
anxiety. And that's when I like, when that clicked with me, I was like, holy crap, I love this show. I love his reactions. I love, because it's like, yes, he's a spy and he has to keep it a secret and he has to do all these dangerous things, but the results are the same as just having severe depression and anxiety. He sits
Mhm.
around, struggles to find motivation. People think he's lazy. People don't understand why he's the way he is. It's
Yeah.
completely that, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, but that's an extreme, notice the extremity of my identifying with that character, where I'm like, so
Mhm.
here's a character I really identify with. By the way, this is the greatest television show of all time. And so, well, Roger Ebert, the film critic,
Mhm.
he said, I don't remember his exact quote, so I'm paraphrasing, but he said that movies in particular are just an empathy machine. Like that's what they are. Movies exist solely to create empathy in the viewers, and that's why it's a beautiful thing to enjoy movies, because they really exist to make you feel empathy.
Okay.
And I always like that quote. I think that he's right. I think that a great film, you go through an incredibly empathetic journey. That's like the
Mhm.
whole thing is,
Yeah.
when you're done, you're like, whoa, I felt for that person. And that's why one of the reasons I love movies and television shows, and why, oh my God, I can't believe we're going to come back to this. I'm so sorry. It's why Quantum Leap is so good, Michelle, is because literally that show is just about creating empathy. And not to get all political, but it's a straight white man, and they make him famous examples of people who have been downtrodden and abused, to
Mhm.
make the, at that time, majority straight white audience be able to empathize properly with those struggles, which is a beautiful way to share struggles.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, non-judgmental, non-confrontational way to make people understand where other people are coming from,
Mhm.
which is why that show's brilliant. And I love that show. And thank you, Craig Cohen, by the way. He sent me the Blu-ray set for my birthday after he heard that episode. Thank you
Aw.
so much, Craig. That was a very, very great gift, and and shocked the hell out of me. Um, but yeah, it's like that's why I love movies, and that's why I love storytelling so much, because empathy is so important.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I like your comics, because they make me feel empathetic to the characters.
Good.
Um, that's an important thing,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and that's why I think that I mean, like, if I had to think about like the empathy stuff I had as a kid, it's a lot less, because empathy is something that grows with you through
Yeah.
shared experience and loss and pain and stuff like that. There's a reason like really little kids tend to be selfish. They don't under they have to lose something to get what it feels like to lose something. And if they're
Mhm.
6, maybe they haven't lost anything yet. Maybe
Yeah.
they haven't. But when you're 12 and your PlayStation 4, breaks, and then a year later your buddy's like, comes over and he's all pissed and he's like, my PlayStation 4 broke. You can go, oh man,
Yeah,
that
I
made me
remember.
so mad when that happened to
Yeah.
me. And you don't even think
Yeah.
like that. Your
Mhm.
emotions just fill in the blanks. They just
Mhm.
take you to that moment when your PS4 broke, and then it comes back and you're like, I see why you're mad, you know so empathy is a hard thing for kids, which is why some kids movies are it's so fascinating. It's like there's almost no middle ground. Some kids movies and TV shows are so incredibly shallow, and then others are so devastatingly deep when you watch them again as an adult. Oh
Mhm.
my god. And I think that's why they lay it on so thick, the ones that aren't shallow, because the initial audience is dense to some extent. They're kids. So
Yeah.
now, as me as an adult, I can't watch the Christmas episode of Hey Arnold without sobbing like a little baby, because it's so beautiful and sad.
It's really sad.
My win. My win. So so I guess we're just talking about empathy today.
I guess so.
But do you remember the first thing that like knocked the air out of your lungs with empathy?
I no, I
Like
don't.
well, do you remember the first thing that the way you described it, like the first thing you truly felt you identified with?
But now I'm all confused because we were talking about things two different ways, so I don't know what you mean now.
I'm talking about your definition of identify because I think our definitions are just a bit different. So I'm
Yeah,
talking about from your
absolutely.
definition. I want to understand because from my perspective, I think your definition is just like a way amped up version of my definition. Like yours is
Mhm.
just more intense. So I want to know though, when was that moment for you? Like, do you remember what that was that kind of took you to that place?
I don't know.
You have to know. It was such a
No,
big build. You have to know what that moment was for
no.
you.
It never happened. I was lying.
Oh, look, you've upset Henwolf. She just came into the room.
Oh.
Now she's sniffing the
Um.
floor for no reason.
Oh.
I mean, well, the reason is she's a dog.
Yeah. Well, and probably there's a smell on the floor that smells interesting.
Go on. Share
Um.
with the class.
The thing is, like, they're so, since we are talking about slightly different things, sort of maybe. There are so few of them. In fact, I'm like, where's the other one? And I don't remember. Man, I don't want to do this. This is embarrassing.
Good. That's the meat.
No.
I mean, well, I'll tell you, like, I remember when you showed me the anime Erased, I identified with that character so deeply. It was a very difficult show for me to watch some of it. It was very
Yeah.
difficult in a good way. I mean, it was great. It just was like,
Yeah.
it was a little hard on me because of the
Uh-huh.
identifying with it so much.
I did it.
Um,
I did it.
but you liked that show too.
I did. I liked it a lot.
Did you identify with that character much?
No.
But you still really liked it.
Yeah, no, yeah, because we're still talking about identifying differently. I
Yeah, we're
had
talking about
great
the definition you
empathy.
understand of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, then I didn't. Actually, a little bit. That's not true. A little bit because I like his life previous to all of the stuff with him like just being like this struggling kind of like manga artist sort of, but like not really getting anything accomplished like ever. I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, totally. I totally understand all of that." Um but you know, they did that thing where it was like it's because of childhood trauma and not just because I'm just a sad person who doesn't get anything accomplished. So
Well, I was gonna say, anybody out there making a TV show, movie, book, anything, just have a scene where a child comes home to just a mom like cutting carrots in the kitchen, and I'll be crying in no time. Like you
yeah.
that is all it takes.
Oh,
Ah,
I know what I can do to you that would really hurt you.
why are you so excited? Your smile is so big.
Yeah.
Go on. Oh, were you hiding it
gonna.
from me? Is that the plan?
One day we're gonna watch Jujutsu Kaisen, just because.
Okay, those aren't even words. Like, was that
Yeah.
was that the recording skipping? Jujutsu
Yeah.
Kaisen?
Yeah. Jujutsu Kaisen.
Jujutsu?
Like, yeah.
Like
Kaisen.
jujutsu.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so not jujitsu, jujutsu.
No, Jujutsu Kaisen.
Okay. What does that mean?
I don't know.
You know what it means.
No, actually, I'm not really sure. It's just that it's a newer it's a newer adaptation of just a typical battle shonen. So it's just, like, the same genre as all the other battle shonen, like the same genre as like I guess One Piece or like Naruto or like uh Dragon Ball, that kind of thing. That it's that genre, the one where they like fight and stuff with each other stuff. But it's really good. And there was a couple of episodes that reminded me of erased. I mean, not the same at all, but like it had something in there that would probably make you really upset. So
Good to know.
we should watch it. Um, but
Oh, yeah, yes.
no, did you want to say
Please,
something?
no, you say something, please.
Um,
For the love
and
of
then the
God, say
episode
something.
ended. Okay, so pretty much the only character that I could think of that I've identified with like on a base level, like the way I'm talking about it, not just a sense of empathy, was like Mob from Mob Psycho
Oh, I
100. Like
totally
that's
see
it.
that. I mean, I saw
Yeah.
that from the time I started watching it with you.
Yeah.
I could totally see you identifying heavily with that character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
There's
of
a
your psychic
point.
powers.
Yeah, I know. I know. No one else understood, and everyone was always like, Michelle, like they're not even that cool. So I was like, oh my god, another person where it's not that cool. But yeah, that's all I got.
I don't really know how much I appreciate the level of excitement you got about how much you could hurt me from showing me an anime. You were so your face lit up with so much joy.
Sorry.
Why do you want me to suffer? I don't understand.
I just I guess I don't really understand people, and I just think that I like when shows make me sad, so I think I could give that to other people.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, I like a show that that affects me,
Mhm.
deeply. It's
Yeah.
just the joy and the use of negative terms. You're just like your face. This is you. Your face is all lit up. And you're like, oh, I know how I can hurt you so bad. That's the that's the part that's weird. Is that sales point, not not the fact that you want to
I
give me
guess.
something that'll really affect me.
Yeah, but that's the way my brain does that. It just goes like, wow, I could devastate a person if I
Finally. We should just both see a therapist together at this point. I think
No,
maybe
it
that would
didn't
be the way to do
work.
it.